Howdy ladies and gents, my name is Thom Gibson. In this video I'm going to talk about the breakfast that I've eaten just about every day for nearly the last 2 years. This breakfast is part of the slow-carb diet popularized by Tim Ferriss, and I started it 2 years ago when I found myself weighing about 191 pounds. It was the heaviest I'd ever been. I started the slow-carb diet and about 6 months later I was down to about 160. I've been able to maintain this weight for the most part, with the exception of when I really started to focus on weight training and I gained some muscle mass and brought me up to about 170. But on to the breakfast. For this breakfast, you'll need a carton of egg whites, some large eggs, preferably organic, some bacon, preferably organic. I prefer the thick cut bacon, some lentils. I get a can of these and then keep them in Tupperware after I've opened it, an avocado, some organic spinach, and some Italian dressing. To start off, I heat up my non-stick frying pan to a little less than medium heat. While that's heating up, I go ahead and make my coffee. I like having 2 cups of coffee in the morning, so that's 4 cups of water, and I use 1 tablespoon of coffee beans for every cup of water that I use. By this point, my frying pan is heated up and I go ahead and put 2 slices of bacon on there. And while the bacon is cooking, I cut up my avocado. I only use half an avocado for breakfast. The half that has the pit still attached to it is what I put back in the fridge, because the pit actually helps it keep a little bit longer, and keeping it in the fridge will also help it keep a little bit longer. I'll generally use the second half the next day. I slice up my avocado lengthwise and widthwise, and then I use a fork to get it out. I know a spoon's probably faster, but this is the fork I'm gonna use when I eat my meal, and I want as few dishes as possible. So at this point, your bacon is probably ready to be flipped over. I like my bacon pretty crispy. It's about 30 to 45 seconds after I flip the bacon over, I go ahead and turn the burner off. I keep the bacon on there to kind of finish cooking as it cools off. I want it to cool down before I cook my lentils and my eggs. While the pan's cooling down, I prepare my spinach. I get about a handful of spinach and put it in a bowl. And I use a very small amount of Italian dressing, as the flavor is generally pretty strong. Once the pan's cooled off, you can move your bacon onto your plate. I put down a paper towel to absorb a little bit of the grease, and I leave the rest of the grease inside the pan. If you don't like cooking in the grease, you can dump it into a little jar. You can absorb it up with a paper towel, but I like the grease flavor mixing with the lentils and the eggs. At that point, go ahead and heat the pan up to low. The reason we turned it off and put it on low is because it cools off a lot faster when it's off than if you just put it on low and wait for it to cool down to that temperature. I start cooking my lentils first, and I cook about 2 tablespoons worth of lentils. Immediately after putting the lentils in, I start pouring in about 2 egg whites, and I usually gauge that by just filling it up until the bottom of the pan is just about filled with the egg whites. Throw 1 full egg in there, and the secret to having nice fluffy eggs that are not plasticky and chewy is to keep cooking it on low and keep the eggs moving the whole time. Once I don't see any uncooked egg white left, I turn off the burner. I move the bacon off to the side of the plate, and then I put my eggs on my plate. I do enjoy putting a little bit of shredded cheese on my eggs, but it is not recommended if you are just getting started on the slow carb diet. I didn't start really using cheese until about 6 months after I started, where the weight loss had sort of plateaued. Your coffee should be good to go now. And the final thing is the salsa. So if you're like me and you do not really like any grocery store salsa, you have a few options. If there is a Mexican restaurant in your city that you really enjoy their salsa, see if you can buy some from there. I live in Austin, Texas, so I usually get some from Torchy's Tacos or Taco Deli. Both have magnificent salsa that I can buy, bring home, and throw on my eggs. If that isn't an option for you, I've found that Mexican hot sauce is actually really good. I've used Cholula and Valentina's. They both taste pretty much the same. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Cholula's. I sprinkle a little bit onto the eggs, and there you have it, the slow carb breakfast of champs. I like this breakfast because it doesn't feel like I'm eating on a diet. This is stuff that I actually enjoy eating. If you're not into lentils, you can use black beans, pinto beans, soybeans, and if you don't really like spinach, just about any green vegetable will do. I've posted a link in the description that details the whole slow carb diet if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. But let me know if you have any questions about it. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up and other people will be able to find it a little bit easier. If you're new here, I'm a middle school teacher, and generally my content is teaching and filmmaking stuff, but it's the summer for me, so I'm taking this opportunity to try some new things. But if you'd like to stay in the loop on my upcoming videos, then hit subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.